Dan Mandis here indeed. Want to welcome on into the program Newsmaker Hotline, our grassroots political analyst, Matthew Hurtt. Matthew, always great to have you on. I do have some big VP news that I don't even know if you know about, but I'm going to talk about that here in a second with you and get your opinion on something that has been thrown out there now. But first, big news in Virginia, which is where you are. You're from Tennessee, but you work these days and live in Virginia. The Republican primary race in Virginia's 5th congressional district between House Freedom Caucus Chairman Bob Good, and he's called a mega foe, some sort of an enemy of Donald Trump, and State Senator John McGuire, who is Trump-backed. They are going head-to-head in a primary, again, for the 5th congressional district there in Virginia. And as of 11 p.m., it looks like it was too close to call. What's the latest there?
Well, it looks like the way that we track elections in Virginia is a platform called VPAP, and I'm looking at the dashboard right now. It looks like John McGuire is about 215 votes ahead of Bob Good in this race out in Virginia's 5th, which is the more rural area out in towards Southwest, but not all the way to the Tennessee border. And so John McGuire is a state senator now. He was, I believe, in the House of Delegates. Bob Good is a one-term congressman. Virginia's 5th has gone through a number of congressmen over the last several cycles. And Bob Good is the chairman of the House Freedom Caucus. John McGuire was, of course, endorsed by Donald Trump, but he was backed with hundreds of thousands of dollars from former Speaker Kevin McCarthy. So when you talk about draining the swamp, having a candidate backed by Speaker McCarthy, who Bob Good helped to remove from the Speaker's office, raises questions for conservatives not only in Virginia but across the country on what it means to earn Trump's endorsement in a race like this.
Why do they call him MAGA foe? Well, like why? Because if he's head of the Freedom Caucus, they say that he is a conservative firebrand. Why is he considered a foe of Donald Trump?
Yeah, he supported Ron DeSantis early in the presidential primary, and in 2024, we had a wide-open primary with no incumbent, and a lot of Republicans chose another candidate, just like they did in 2016. In 2016, there were 16 Republican candidates. Many of them, many people supported a number of candidates, and then as it appeared as though Donald Trump was going to be the imminent nominee, plenty of Republicans lined up behind Donald Trump. This is the same story that played out in Virginia's 5th, this primary cycle. Bob Good supported Ron DeSantis, and then as it appeared as though Donald Trump was going to clinch the nomination, Bob Good said, you know what, I'm all in for Donald Trump. Bob Good appeared in the audience at a Donald Trump rally in Richmond earlier in the spring and was supported by supporters of Donald Trump like Matt Gaetz and Lauren Boebert and others. So, Good had strong support from people with credentials, MAGA credentials in Congress, and so it raises again questions about at what point along the process does a Republican have to support Donald Trump for him to endorse or back that candidate in a primary race.
Was there any real noticeable difference in their policies?
On the policies between Bob Good and John McGuire are not dissimilar. They are essentially very similar kinds of candidates, very kinds of legislators. John McGuire currently serves in the state Senate in Virginia. On the policies, they're probably about 92 to 95% the same. That said, this is one of those inside the swamp races where well-meaning voters, Donald Trump supporters who rely on the president to make a strong case for a good candidate, listen to Trump's endorsement, but much of that endorsement or much of the support was backed by moderates and establishment types in Washington, D.C. There was a bus that left from Navy Yard in Washington, D.C., which is where all the Republican Hill staffers live, a bus that left over the weekend, last weekend, sponsored by moderate Republicans, Republicans who support forever wars, forever engagement in Ukraine and wherever else. And that bus was filled with Hill staffers who went down to Virginia's 5th District to knock doors and support John McGuire.
Interesting. So it sounds like from a policy standpoint, really you're getting a good conservative either way. But you're right. Has been in my circles too, and with my friends that are conservative, what it does mean to be MAGA these days. So, all right, well, we'll continue to watch that. In other news, I thought this was interesting. Kathleen Parker now writing in the Washington Post that Joe Biden should replace Kamala Harris with Hillary Clinton. What do you think?
I think, again, a lot of these columnists and pundits in Washington, D.C. for the Washington Post or the New York Times, they live in an upper division political science class.
Yep.
They dream of the days when they were at Vanderbilt or MTSU learning from their far left professors about this West Wing style approach to politics. I don't know in the process where the Democrats would allow a Hillary Clinton to replace Kamala Harris on the ticket, but we've already seen that play out. We saw it play out in 2008 when voters rejected Hillary Clinton. Democrats rejected Hillary Clinton against Barack Obama. We saw it in 2016 when voters rejected Hillary Clinton for Donald Trump. And it is more of the same. For a party that claims to be progressive, that claims to be forward-thinking, that claims to be the next generation of American leadership, they sure are digging deep into the archives on a Hillary Clinton. The last time you and I spoke, we spoke about her endorsing a candidate for Congress, I believe in New York, and she just doesn't have that much political credibility. The other side of that coin, though, is that Kamala Harris is absolutely untenable. And if Democrats are concerned that Joe Biden won't make it through a second term, then they may be looking for someone, and Hillary Clinton may appear to be that Democrat stability that they're looking for. But there are so many other Democrats. If Joe Biden is going to change vice presidential horses in the middle of this race, I think that he's got plenty of other options that would, one, be appealing to Democrat primary voters, that would kind of address their concerns about his well-being, but that would also counter any sort of independent peel-off from the Democrats to Donald Trump, and I don't think Hillary Clinton does that at all.
Who is more reviled in America, Hillary Clinton or Kamala Harris?
I tried to track down polling that would actually answer this question sort of quantifiably, because I think both Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris have high negatives, not only among Democrats, but among the broader public.
Right. The
question is, with our political memories, 2016 was ages ago for most voters. Many people have moved on, even the pandemic. The lockdowns and all of those policies, people have sort of cooled on those. And so Hillary Clinton has the benefit of a short memory for most people in politics. So a lot of her negatives have cooled, and Kamala Harris has the opposite of that, of the recency problem, where people just don't really like her, and Democrats don't even like her oftentimes. And so I think that it's a different set of negatives for each of them. Does Hillary Clinton have a leg up because the last time she was in elected office was ages ago and people have sort of cooled on her negatives? Possibly. But if you put them side by side, the negatives for both are still pretty high.
I think that, and then we're going to move on, I think that if you're a conservative, if Hillary's on the ticket, I think she inspires you more than ever to go out and vote for Donald Trump. I don't think Kamala, I think we sort of shake our heads and sort of laugh at Kamala Harris. But I think Hillary Clinton, she's reviled among Republican circles. So I think that who would be more inspiring for Republicans to come out and vote against? It is Hillary Clinton. Okay, moving right along. Joe Biden had another one of those moments yesterday.
Thanks to all the members of Congress and Homeland Security Secretary. I'm not sure I'm going to introduce you all the way.
All right, so that is clearly Joe Biden forgetting the name of Alejandro Mayorkas.
I'm not sure going to introduce you all the way.
Clearly, please stop, Joe. Just stop trying. So the video actually, I think if you see Joe Biden's face, he looks, I'm going to say, like Mitch McConnell when Mitch McConnell froze the first and the second time. So you've got Cringe Jean-Pierre out there talking about these cheap fake videos, and she's trying to pass off the Republicans as just putting out this misinformation, disinformation. And, you know, that moment with Joe Biden couldn't have come, in my opinion, at a better time, because that's not a deceptive video at all. So what do you think about all that?
You know, I think that if you look at the national polls from 2020 and the national polls right now, Joe Biden in 2020 always led Donald Trump in the national polls, and not by just a few points. It was between 5 and 10 points almost every time on average. When you look at the national polls right now, Donald Trump has been leading. He's been leading in the averages of national polls all the way back since March, and that's including Kennedy on the ballot. And so this is another instance of the average voter, the independent voter, the voter who only comes out in presidential years, who pays attention only when it is right in front of him, where this is now a relevant issue. And in these sort of instances where Joe Biden has a memory lapse, or he stumbles through a speech, or he stumbles through the stage, or he can't find a seat, these are all tiny little things that will culminate in a voter going into the election on election day, going into the booth and saying, who is better fit to serve as president? And people ask a number of questions. They say, you know, who's better on immigration? Who's better on the economy? Who's better on security? Who's better on, 8 or 9 issues? And then they ask these nuanced questions like, who could I have a beer with?
Yeah.
And in 2012, Mitt Romney lost that question to Barack Obama, which is the reason he lost. He won every other on the economy, on foreign policy, on everything. And it turns out Mitt Romney was right about a lot of things regarding Russia and China. And this, how relatable is this person? So can I have a beer with Joe Biden, or is he fit to serve another 4 years? And when people start asking that question, regardless of whether or not the video is a cheap fake or a deep fake, or it's live on national television, which is where most of this content comes from, voters are going to say, can he actually serve out as president? And am I willing to make that gamble? And a lot of voters, especially independents, especially older voters who are thinking about these issues, will say, no, I can't make that gamble.
Yeah, I think that Cringe Jean-Pierre coming out and telling the American people that these are cheap fake videos, when in reality we have been watching Joe Biden shank, he's falling upstairs a number of different times. He has gone out. He's been calling out for congresswomen that have been killed in car crashes. He tries to shake hands with ghosts. People are seeing this with their own eyes. And so when she comes out and she's, talking about how these are faked videos and so forth, I think it's just another example of how the Biden administration has been lying to the American people all along. It's like it's more gaslighting. Last question. Got a week before the big debate between Biden and Trump. And is Donald Trump, and are the Republicans making a mistake in really saying that Joe Biden, there's no way that he's going to be able to make it through this debate and so forth, because the accusation or the conversation is that you've got the expectations, the bar is being set so low for Joe Biden that if he's able to get through this debate, then he just wins because he didn't embarrass himself. He got 45 seconds.
This is a great point, Dan. Managing expectations is the name of the game. And so if Republicans and conservatives raise that bar or lower the bar to the extent that will Joe Biden be able to make it off stage in 90 minutes, the American people may be pleasantly surprised. I think that it is worth our while and worth it for conservatives and Republicans to say, we know that Donald Trump is sharp. We know that he makes strong points. We know that he makes a good. Joe Biden does occasionally make the same kinds of good quips, but the American people have to come into this with expectations that are reasonable If Republicans lower Joe Biden's expectations all the way to the basement, most voters will be very shocked and pleasantly surprised with his performance if he does even just okay. And so it's okay for Republicans to pump the brakes on managing expectations on Joe Biden's performance in the first debate.